Good evening. Are there any questions from anyone?
Hello, hello. I have all the questions about the heart. I realize that I still have many inaccuracies in my head on this topic. But there is also good news. I have started experiencing some very interesting processes in this area, very pleasant ones, and I feel much more in the context of the heart than before. It is precisely in connection with these new processes that I have developed questions. The first question is about the fact that the heart is not the center. Am I understanding correctly? So we have centers and then there is the heart. This is still something different, so what is it?
Well, let's start with the fact that the heart is located completely in a different place. And many people who initially feel their heart are actually sensing their center. So sometimes questions arise. How is it, Anton, that everything is burning in my chest, yet people are throwing things at me? Why? Because you feel your energy center, its manifestation spreading throughout the entire chest. And the heart is still not sufficiently noticeable. When I say heart, I mean the bindu in the heart. The bindu in the heart leads us to the source, to the first cause. The bindu in the heart is the soul. The soul is multi-layered. It has these layers like in an infinite tunnel when you place two mirrors opposite each other. Depending on how flexible a person's consciousness is and how capable they are of abstracting from images, that is how deeply they will immerse themselves in bindu. If a person is unable to abstract from images, they will still see something there. Any image, while a person is engaged in this, they interact with the energies that are present there. And these energies are nothing other than unconditional love. Therefore, when a person truly leads their heart, they experience that very feeling that perhaps someone once felt in their early youth and childhood. They remember that feeling. But since this feeling was conditioned in youth, it has long been lost. Here, it is possible to experience this feeling without any causal connections to the external world. This feeling is very deep, very intimate, very sincere, and in most cases, a person sheds a lot of tears. But to say that these are tears of sadness would not be accurate. It is simply a reaction of the physical body to these energies. Over time, a person gets used to it, and he becomes accustomed to it mentally and physically as well. It turns out that the heat does not actually decrease, but the perception may gradually diminish. That is, the intensity of sensations may decrease, while the actual intensity has not changed. This can also lead to a bunch of questions, but fundamentally, one should not confuse their own. Bindu in the heart refers to the physical heart with an energetic center, but that's not all. Right now, there may be clarity that I am instantly destroyed by. In fact, a person has many hearts. If you look at the picture, you can see 5 of them. Don't count them. They are arranged like small wings, but naturally there are no wings there. The pictures simply help to orient ourselves to those parts of the body where this process can potentially awaken. If we know what a yantra is, and we still don't know what it is, this structure, just like everything else, is reflected in our soul as an example to follow. Accordingly, as we dive deeper into our heart, knowing about the existence of this structure and the settings for it that we still have to learn, we will be able to see it there in various states, up to the state of complete realization.
Well, you answered my question, and to some extent you also answered the following questions, but I will clarify anyway. My next question was precisely about multi-layeredness. That is, I enter one layer, and undoubtedly love is all wonderful there, and I start to have various images appear, but for the most part these images are feminine. I was recalling that I should have a Shiva there, but I have more feminine images. But if I go further, even deeper, I eventually found the original there, and I got completely confused here. Is it possible that this entrance leads to the original?
You have immersed yourself in the bindu in the heart. There, apart from the original, there can be no one else. Since we originally, do you understand what the matter is? For you, there is still a sexual conditioning, that is man and woman. Energy does not have the concept of man and woman. Energy is genderless. There are simply energies that move in one way and energies that move in another way. The energies that move in one way are called Shivas. The energies that move in another way are also called Shivas. But it is the same energy, since Shakti emerged from Shiva. That is, it is also exactly the same energy. Therefore, gender identification is still strong. Yes, there will be feminine images, there will be masculine images. It's all pictures, cartoons. There's no point in getting stuck on this. But over time, as the spectrum of perception expands, it suddenly becomes clear that energy has no gender characteristic at all. And so it turns out that consciousness has reached those layers where it is no longer possible to form any images at all. The energy there is too fluid. It's like trying to form an image of an explosion that doesn't happen somewhere out there, but rather exploded right in front of you, so to speak. And the fact that it ultimately turns out to be Shiva also becomes somewhat inaccurate. Because when you reach the end of Bindu, at that moment you are Shiva. In other words, you remember yourself.
This is how I feel. This is what I meant. Not Shiva at all, yes. There is no longer any Shiva or non-Shiva, but rather a return to the initial state where I am everything, and I understand more about the theme. And here, in the sinful heart, there is our soul. But where is this my soul if you are everything, the soul of all? This entire structure is called the soul, but up to a certain level, this structure can be said to belong only to you, although this does not completely correspond to reality.
At some level, it becomes absolutely clear that you are connected to all people. At some level, the soul can be given individuality. At some level, the soul is purely human, like our species. At some level, the soul is everything that is aware. At some level, you simply remember your original self. However strange it may sound, immersing yourself in your bindu is a practice of leaving this place. It's not about leaving in the sense that you lie down and die, but rather that this cartoon stops. That's it, you're outside of this cartoon. It's like putting a movie on pause and going for a walk. This is the retreat, this is bindu. You pause your entire life. It is motionless for you, for your consciousness at that moment. It is simply a frozen picture in space. At that moment, you are Shiva, who, regardless of whether he is watching a cartoon or has become aware, he is still himself. That is why I constantly say that there is only one being. The question is how much one, being this being, has played around. If a person has played around too much, there is no way to remember the original self. If a person expends an incredible amount of effort to immerse themselves in Bindu, there is no other option. They will remember their original self. They will remember themselves as they truly are. But sometimes such a maneuver may require an entire lifetime, and sometimes suddenly, out of the blue, it can be done in an instant. But as long as we have physical bodies, as long as we are still attached to something here, something interests us here, we are attached even if we say that we are not interested here, and even if we say that we are interested here. In other words, attachment still exists, because those who are not attached do not say anything at all. As long as our physical body exists, and we are attached to something here, no matter how you experience this state, you will still return to this point in space, and this cartoon will continue its narrative.
I understand. And the last question, it is that we do have centers in the heart. Specifically, in our physical heart, there are centers, not just bindu.
But indeed, there are centers in the physical heart. These centers are located in the internal organs. In the first course, I showed the centers in the internal organs. It's a bit blurred there. It all happened because I was in a hurry. I didn't consider it something important, but yes, they exist. We have centers in the intestines, and there is a huge healthy center in the liver that surpasses any energy center along the central line. Yes, and in the heart, We also have many centers that burn in the same way and flow in the same way, but they have no relation to the soul.
I understand. But what about this soul, this divinity in the heart? Does this process just need to be explored more? What should be done with it?
It all depends on whether you are ready to accept yourself as you originally are or not. When all sorts of saints say that you just need to remember, this is what they mean. Accordingly, the deeper you dive into the depths of your bindu, the easier it is for you to realize your true self, but at the same time, again, a certain number of practices, diving into them, so to speak, without effort. Let's put it this way. What does it mean to immerse yourself there effortlessly? When someone told you that there is such a place, you then took a substance and focused on that place. That is, you didn't put in the effort, but this may give you the opportunity to dive very deep into it. And you end up with all the same things as someone who has practiced for 20 years. You initially experience this state, then the substance stops acting, you are thrown out of it, but you undergo a psychological change. That is, you quite rightly begin to call yourself a god. That's right. But at that moment, you mostly forget very sharply that the gods around you are exactly the same. That is, Har Har Mahadev. Each of us is Mahadev. And you start generating a lot of crap from yourself. I call this crap, for example, contempt for other people, arrogance in one's behavior, a certain immaturity, and a degree of narcissism can be observed, as if one behaves as though everyone owes them something. This is because they have experienced this state and have determined for themselves that they were in it. Each of us can experience this state because each of us is Mahade. If a person has not yet experienced this state, it does not mean they are not capable of it. It simply means they have not looked in that direction yet. And because each of us is Mahadev, you walk around throwing poop at everyone, while I am the very embodiment of perfection, and in response, they throw poop at you too, and it is no less light than yours, because each of us is Mahadev, and so you upset 10 Mahadev, and you yourself are feeling a bit crushed. You start to get even more frantic about it, and you begin to have problems. And if one of the Mahadevas wakes up at the moment you provoke him, and he uses his power against you, then things will get really bad for you. And that's why I say that experiencing this state is of course wonderful, but there is a very high chance of going crazy just after that, and to lose your mind, not in the sense that you start drooling, but in the sense that you are right. You are speaking correctly, but you behave in a way that is inconsistent with your current state, and that's where a lot of problems arise. And those practices related to amber, why are they secret? Why are they closed off? When I was in the temple, I heard my Shana an infinite number of times that this cannot be shown, that this cannot be demonstrated, that it is only passed on to those who have proven their dedication to the path. My dedication to the path is for those who have recited the mantra 100 million times, who have performed various rituals, pujas, homas, and tarpans 100,000 million times. That is, when a person shows through their actions that they are strong and good, you can pass these practices on to them. But before that, everyone was left in the woods and no one would get anything. This endlessly annoyed me. It just irritated me to the point of impossibility. I thought that this was wrong. I thought that, oh man, just a moment. Just give me these practices. I will do everything my way. And at some point, I received initiation into the Shri Yantra. If I remember correctly, though I might be mistaken now, but if I remember correctly, I wasn't even a student then. Not only was there outrage about how everything was arranged, but I also violated this logic of passing on practices myself. I became the first person for myself who received it improperly, meaning I received it without the status of a student, without the endless repetition of mantras. I just came and practically took it from her, but at the same time, Ashan allowed me to do it. I have no idea why he did that. Why did he leave me at the moment of handing over this yantra? Well, I left. And after that, I studied a lot, for a very long time, officially received the status of a student, got a bunch of mantras, did all of that. But that was already after, not before, but after. But this internal disagreement of mine has not gone anywhere. And so, when I began to move forward as a teacher, as a person who imparts knowledge, I took a different position in this world. I said this, Devi, I have no doubt that all of this is harmonious and balanced. I have no doubts about higher powers. I have no doubts about God, about Shiva. There are no doubts at all. But the place where I received this knowledge, the way it is structured there, I don't like. I didn't even say that it's wrong. I just said that I simply don't like it. I want to try differently. I made a deal with reality. I said, okay, reality, let's make everything beautiful for us. If a person can reach me, I will give them everything I know. If he doesn't come to me, I will not drag him in any way. And as of today, no more than 10 people have personally received knowledge about Yantra from me. No, more than 10, although it has probably been a decade since then. I have even lost count of how much time has passed. That is, on one hand, my position remains with me, but on the other hand, I cannot say that I go around proclaiming this knowledge left and right. And why is that? I will explain now. This is so because when a person begins to practice at such a level, we have several levels. This is the physical level, the mental level, the energetic level. Each of these levels represents much greater power and effect. For example, if I fought with a person on a physical level, just fought with them using our fists, we would injure each other's physical bodies. Perhaps even the psyche will not be harmed, because fighting among men is normal. This is not some kind of soul trauma. We fought, today we fought, tomorrow we made up, the day after tomorrow we beat someone else up. This is normal. At the level of physical power, a person has none. At the psychological level, one person can mess with the minds of a large number of people. This means that the scale of their activity increases dramatically. There are examples where some initiator starts processes at the district level and processes at the city level. There is the same Che Guevara, the same Hitler, many people who rally the crowd. This is already a level of psychology. That is, a person manifesting at the level of the psyche can accomplish much more. There is a level of energy that is even more expansive and more powerful. At the level of energy, one person can accomplish much more, by an order of magnitude, more than at the level of the psyche. There is an even higher level that I haven't even started to talk about because we already have enough to discuss, and that is the level of consciousness. This is where you are the original. That is, originally, it is consciousness itself. It is what perceives. It is what is aware. Not thinking, but simply aware. This is pure perception. And at this level, we also take action. We are manifested there as well. At the level of consciousness, one person can actually destroy all of humanity. That is, one person can wipe out all of humanity if they start causing chaos there. And so, the knowledge of Yantra is the knowledge that allows you to act at the level of consciousness. Naturally, reality will not look kindly on a person who destroys all of humanity. It will play ahead. Therefore, when people reach this level of practices, they either sit in the temple without leaving, so as not to accidentally disturb anything, or they are very well trained. Therefore, they feel with every cell of their body how they haven't killed and won't kill everyone around them. Just some impulse, like a little one, that they can't even think about, but just feel as an impulse. For example, some offense might make them want to lash out, like when they felt offended at the airport, at the customs, when they said, well, there are unpleasant people living in this country, and all people were affected by just one of you. Naturally, reality will not tolerate such a thing, because it sharply disrupts the balance, and our reality is harmonious. Harmony is overseen by Brahma. That is, at that moment you approach and give a little snap to Brahma. As soon as Brahma does it, he snaps you on the head. It's the same as a mosquito. It comes, sits down, and bites you. You immediately swatted it like a mosquito and just sat there, not even upset about it. At the level where a person manifests at the level of consciousness, the yantra allows one to act at these levels. And besides some crazy power, one also receives crazy responsibility for everything they do. and therefore it is very easy to provoke a barrage of consequences from all sides, simply by performing a fleeting, unconscious action. Therefore, Yantra is not about someone wanting to do it secretly. It is because, by mastering practices at such a level, you can destroy yourself in a split second. It's not because someone is punishing you, but because you can do too much, and too quickly, and you can harm everyone around you. Therefore, reality will destroy you faster than it will allow you to destroy everyone else. That's it. That's the whole mechanism. And now, when I have raised the bar even higher than what I am showing, I have not limited myself to the third stage of the practical energy course. That is the fire pillar. I have decided that I will start showing the yantra piece by piece, layer by layer. And I didn't just stutter about it. I conducted the practice, and I did it very well. Truly. How can I put this? We did everything honestly, and after I read one of the messages somewhere in the chats, where a person wrote that they approached this practice with skepticism, wondering who would show the yantra and what it was all about, I thought, what kind of person is this, even without applying it to you? And a few days later, I saw the effects of it all. Although he was initially skeptical, he bought this remote yantra from me. In other words, a skeptical person decided to purchase access for the 3 days that will be broadcast after just one visit to the practice. That's how well it all works. But after that, after I conducted this practice, our internal chats were simply ablaze with activity. And I was having a hard time balancing all of this. At one point, I even caught myself thinking that I should just cancel everything because I simply couldn't handle it. But it's okay, I managed. I mean, thoughts are thoughts, but actions are actions. And when I didn't limit myself to just thoughts and started to communicate individually with each person, explaining to them why I would act this way and not otherwise. Why will I not choose between 1, 2, and 3? I always choose myself and my path, my intention, my philosophy, which I share with all of you. In other words, I was effectively pushed into such a framework that the only right decision was to act as I advise everyone to act. But in this situation, it was really not easy to act that way at all, because I was just cornered from all sides. For 2 days, our internal chats were ablaze. I tried to balance everything as impeccably and consciously as possible. It's not about extinguishing, but rather balancing things so that everyone is satisfied. So that there are no people who, how should I put it, hold a grudge. And after these 2 days, it seems everything has stabilized. Everything has improved for us. And this is what I showed, just the first layer. And even that kind of without additional preliminary practices. And for us, the preliminary practice is 2 weeks of the fire column. That is, I understand with my head what I am signing up for. I understand how it all works. I don't know about you, but within me, there is an inner adventurer who is also constantly talked about. The inner adventurer says, until you try, you won't know what you are capable of. I will test what I can do. If I can't, I will perish. If I can, some part of people will learn what yantra is at the level of its layers. But since I am not planning to perish, we still have a 50-50 chance. And all the people who claim to have this knowledge, who jump to this level, just know that it is one thing when you are being capricious, and besides your physical body and your psyche, you have nothing else. It's a different matter when you have energy, and there will be a completely different reaction to your whims. And it is quite another matter when you are capable of acting at the level of consciousness. You can destroy all of humanity with your actions, but no one will allow you to do that. Reality will stop you harshly, quickly, and without principles. If you perform these actions at a level of consciousness that is harmonious, pure, beautiful, and impeccable, then all the gifts of this world will be at your disposal, and no one will say a word against you. This is the whole art of living, with such possibilities. And while this art is not perfect, well, to grab, yes, and In short, no one will allow chaos to reign, because behind this part of reality, watches a powerful being, our Creator, whose name is Brahma.
Anton, could you please tell me, during the intensive, I had this feeling that first of all there were streams coming at me from all sides. And I had the feeling that my energy, which I had lost at some point, was returning to me. Something of mine is returning, something that feels like coming home. It's interesting, like that.
Yes, when we get carried away by the external world, when we constantly immerse our attention in the level of matter, we lose that awareness of our connection to the original. Although we are originally that, we forget it. And when we start practicing sufficiently serious techniques that directly affect the memories of what you originally are, this feeling of returning home becomes very pronounced. That is, you just start to remember that you don't need to run anywhere. You don't need to acquire anything. You don't need to be afraid of anything. You don't need to strive for anything. Everything is already good. This state of you are home, everything is fine is, at this level, at the level of the psyche, it is perceived exactly like that and manifests in that way. That's why I shared during the intensive that when I first started practicing Yantra, this feeling that I had finally returned home, that I no longer needed to run somewhere or search for something, was very strongly manifested within me, generating rejection, repulsion, hatred, resentment, despair, contempt. Arrogance is everything you just listed. Every time we expel something from ourselves, meaning we start to vibrate in that way, we reject those parts of ourselves. We do not accept them. In that moment, if we could draw an analogy, what happens at the level of consciousness, at the level of yantra around a person, is the following. Something displeases you, something irritates you. So, how does that irritate you? Well, I suppose I'll just poke my eyes out. Oh, how nice. I don't see anything now. Wonderful. But then something irritates me again. What doesn't irritate me? What I hear irritates me. Yes, I'll pierce my eardrums. Oh, it's quiet now. How nice. Everything doesn't irritate me anymore. This is approximately what we do with our structure of consciousness, when the structure of consciousness remains some kind of deformity. Such people mainly appear in the Kali Yuga, where we are now. However, from here, it is quite good to start right away into the very depths of Bindu. Because here, in this world, time is so greatly compressed that there is no need to practice for 10,000 years in a cave. Instead, one can foolishly rush through the allotted 100 years.
We are all probably hoping for this.
Yes, 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 I can even say more. Some particles of consciousness, not distorted by any negative perceptions, are quite, let's say, whole particles of consciousness. They come here precisely to no longer incarnate, to no longer appear in the dream of Brahma, in order to shoot out of it. Therefore, there are people here in the age of Kali who do not correspond to this era, because they come here specifically to compress it like a spring and then release it. Such people exist. But mostly, all these people are completely out of touch, and they won't deal with society's problems. They don't care about it at all. They came exclusively to develop themselves, and society mainly consists of those who don't care about these practices at all, and they are doing just fine. They happily punch each other in the face, they delight in all sorts of provocations, and they hate, well, all of that. They came exactly for how they look. Like attracts like.